The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and yes, we're still here in St. Catharines, Ontario. Mind you, over the years, we certainly have moved around, haven't we, Craig? Let's see, we started this adventure 33 years ago. We were at, the first station we were at was CKDX in Newmarket, Ontario. Then we came back home to 1220 CHSC. From CHSC, we went to 1290 CJBK in London, Ontario. From London, back here to St. Catharines at CKTB. From CKTB, we went to CFBU. From CFBU, we went on our own, and ever since then, we've been our own company, our own network, reaching millions of people each and every night, right here from our broadcast center, now in St. Catharines, Ontario. X Zone Nation, everybody loves music. What's the true story behind music? What's the hidden story? What do the people who write the music feel at the time that they write the music? Joining me now is David COMBS. And David, I believe it's COMBS, is it?
You got that right. Now, you got to understand that my grandmother was a McConnell, so I am 1/4 McConnell. So my great-grandpa was H.K. McConnell. So we are definitely related.
So we're related. Hey, cuz, how are you?
I'm doing great, cuz.
Thank you so much for joining us, David. It's great having you with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, beside the fact that we're related.
Well, I live here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was born in East Tennessee, in a little town called Erwin, up in the mountains of East Tennessee. And when I graduated from college, I moved here to North Carolina, met my wonderful wife, Linda, and we have been married for 52, going on 53 years. And
God bless you.
So I have been an executive and a manager at AT&T for a long time, for 22 and a half years. And then I finally was able to quit my job and do my music full time. This was in 1992. That was 30 years ago. And so I've had a varied career with technology. I'm a math major, physics minor in college. I have my MBA, wow. So I'm a business person as well. And my wife says I make her head spin. I have tons of interests. Anything that's would pique my curiosity, I'm likely to just chase. I have the curiosity of a cat, I guess. So,
well, that's great to hear. Tell us about what it's like to get a vision, get a feeling, and then take that wonderful moment and put it to music. What is that like for you as an artist?
Well, I would like to I wish that I could literally take you back to the night or the evening in 1981 when I came home from work. As I was usually wont to do, I went straight to my piano to sit down and play something to relax. Most everybody has a routine of things they do to relax. Well, my thing is to sit down at my piano and play something. So I wonder what you would have thought had you been sitting there on the piano bench beside me that evening, and I put my hands on the piano, and it's as if I'm not in control of my fingers. I literally started playing a song, didn't even realize that I was playing something that I'd never heard before, but I played it, and it was a beautiful melody, a beautiful chords, a beautiful progression. I played it from the beginning to the end, and it was literally a song with a verse and a chorus, and it sounded so beautiful. I really did not even realize, Rob, that I was writing a song. I was literally just almost an out-of-body experience. I was just playing a song, and it never changed. I would play it again, same song. Nothing changed. And it wasn't until a couple of days later when my wife came home from work and said, "Dave, what's this song that I've got stuck in my head?" And she hummed a little bit of it. And I said, "Well, Linda, it doesn't have a name." She says, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Well, it's just something I made up." Well, she got all excited and said, "Wow, you wrote that song?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And so she said, "Well, have you written it down?" No, I haven't written it down. But she said, "Well, you better, because the truck might run over you and something would happen and that song would be gone." She said, "Okay." So I did write it down. And Rob, for those that are watching this on video, this is the piece of paper that I wrote it down on. It's called it's called a lead sheet, but it's just the melody and the chords. And as you can see, it's a very simple song. But that song literally changed my life and affected the lives of millions of people. I heard over the years from over 50,000 people from that recording of that song. It's just been an amazing journey. And I can't explain it. It's one, if you want to say that something is paranormal, I guess the definition of paranormal is where you really can't explain it by science or reason.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't explain it by that way. So it literally is an inspired piece of music, and that's how it came to be.
So how did the song get its name, Rachel?
Well, we tried to think of a good name for the song. You know, when you write something, a book or a poem or a piece of music, you want to give it a name. Linda and I tried to think of names for it, and nothing ever seemed to fit the song. And then 2 years later, some good friends of ours had a little baby girl named Rachel. And her parents asked us to be her godparents. And so at little Rachel's christening service, Linda and I are sitting there in the church with just the family and us, and we're sitting there listening to the minister say all his flowery words about little Rachel. And at the end of the service, I had noticed at the front of the church was a beautiful baby grand piano. And for a musician, that's always going to catch your eye, of course. And so
Sure.
I punched Linda and I said, "Hey, what if I played this song that we've been trying to think of a name for as part of this service now?" So she said, "That's a great idea." So I went up to the family and the minister and said, "Would it be okay if I played this little song on the piano?" "Oh, sure." So I went over to the piano, sat down and played it. Well, I got mostly through the song, and boy, I could hear in the audience people's throats clearing and a few sniffles here and there. And I noticed that my eyes were having a little bit of moisture leaking out too. And at the end of the song, I said, "From now on, this song will be called Rachel's Song in honor of little Rachel." And that was how it got its name, Rob.
Beautiful story. How did you get Rachel on the radio? Like you're basically, if you'll excuse the expression, you're an unknown, and yet you've got this beautiful song and you want to get it on the radio. How did you accomplish that?
Well, I got it recorded, of course, in Nashville as a demo recording, just something to have for our own enjoyment and the family. But the demo recording turned out to be so fantastic that I knew that I had to spread it, because everybody I played it for says, "Man, that sounds fantastic." And I had a good friend named Bob McConnell who had a radio program in Greensboro, North Carolina on Saturday mornings. It was a big band jazz program. And, you know, it was one of those where Bob knows everything there is to know about jazz, and it's a wonderful program. Well, I played Rachel's song at lunch one day for my friend Bob, and he was so moved by the song. He said, "Dave, you got to let me play that on my radio show." I said, "Well, okay." So I loaned him my master reel-to-reel tape, which is all I had of a high-quality recording. And they took it to the radio station, made a copy of it on their tape machine, and he played it that Saturday morning on the radio. And a strange thing happened. This really started the ball rolling. As soon as he played it on the radio, the phones at the radio station locked up. I mean, they had a phone bank of, 12, 15 phone lines.
Yeah.
All of them locked up. People, "What's the name of that song you just played? Would you play that song again? Tell me more about Rachel's song, and tell me more about this guy COMBS in Winston-Salem." The station manager gave me a phone call, and he said, "Dave, I've been in radio over 20 years. This has never happened to me before, but you have got something that you need to do something with." So that was what the light bulb went off, Rob, and I said, "I got to do something with this." So I started calling radio stations around. I even did the Loretta Lynn thing, see a radio tower, and I'd chase down the station. I'd find it and give them a record. And eventually I got it played on every easy listening radio station in the United States. And that was several hundred of them way back then.
So I understand that you were able to get Rachel into gift shops. How did you do that? How did you come up with that idea?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I was a marketing genius and I had that brilliant idea, but that wouldn't be telling the truth. It was one of those things that I call it a God wink. It was one of those things that just happened. I was working next to a lady at AT&T whose best friend owned a gift shop. And this lady I worked with, she loved Rachel's song. And she says, Dave, could I get a CD and give it to my friend who owns this gift shop? She plays music in her shop and I'd like to give it to her. I said, okay, sure. So I did. I didn't think much about it. And next thing I know, I get a phone call from this lady, Jane, that owns a gift shop. Now, the name of the shop was called America, and she sold anything patriotic. If it was red, white, and blue, she sold it in her shop.
That's good. Yeah.
And she played patriotic music, kind of like the music you started off your bumper music with at the beginning of the show. You know, she played all kinds of patriotic stuff. But then she also had a 5 CD changer, and she put Rachel's song CD in there. Now, you can imagine the contrast between John Philip Sousa and all this rah, 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 patriotic music. And then here comes along this piano, soothing, relaxing music of Rachel's song. She says, Dave, every time Rachel's song comes on in my store, all the customers come over to the counter and say, Jane, do you have that music for sale? I want to take it home with me. And she said, I don't. So can we fix that? I said, sure, we can do that. So she said, how about bringing me a bunch of CDs and cassette tapes to my shop? I said, all right, I'll bring them to you tonight. So that evening after work, Linda and I boxed up a box of tapes and CDs and took them to Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, to this shop called America. Left them with Jane and thought, well, we'll see what happens here. Because, you know, I'd tried to sell my music through the record stores and all the standard ways of selling music. Got nowhere, Rob. They wouldn't have anything. Like you said, they never heard of Dave Combs. I was a no name. So anyway, I gave them to Jane. And a couple of days later, phone rings again, Rob. It's Jane, I need some more. Those are all gone. Can you bring me some more? So that evening, she said, how about doubling the order? So I boxed up maybe a couple of dozen, took them to her. Linda and I made that trip from home in Potomac, Maryland, down to Old Town Alexandria every week for over a year. She sold thousands of tapes and CDs out of that one little gift shop by just simply playing it for her customers. They heard it, they loved it, they bought it and took it home with them. That's how it got started with gift shops.
All right, my friend, you and I have to take our first break. X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Dave Combs. We're talking about his, I'm going to call it a miracle song, Rachel. And Dave's website is combsmusic.com. And Dave and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario. Don't go away. And welcome back, everyone. Dave Combs is my special guest this hour. His website is combsmusic.com. The CDs that you were selling in the gift shop, Dave, how many other songs did you have on the CD?
Well, that very first one, I only had the 7 songs because at the time I produced the CD, I had only written 7 songs and everybody was clamoring for a copy of the music. And I said, well, I can either go ahead with the 7 I have, or I can wait a year or so and come out with another one. And I did not want to wait any longer. So I put my 7 songs on that CD, and it's still, that's all that's on there. But it's, you know, and you won't believe this, I was so naive. I didn't even own a CD player. And I did not know that CD players had an auto repeat function on them. So guess what I did? You look at my CD, every song is on there twice. Well, you know what happens when you play the CD all the way through, every song plays twice. Well, that turned out to be a blessing, because if a store was playing my CD and other CDs on my CD, every song I had on there got played twice, not just once. So
well, I'd say that was a stroke of marketing genius, my friend.
Well, I wish I'd planned it that way, but it worked out that way.
You know, I believe that things happen in life for a reason. And putting those 2 songs on, getting it into the first gift shop, man, you've got angels with you, my friend. You've got angels. Tell me about the Guidepost magazine article.
Well, I was sitting at my in my office. I was working out of home, and I had an office manager and me and my wife. That was all our business. And I had an 800 number. People could call in and order my CDs and tapes. And I answered the phone one day, and on the other end of the line was a lady. Her name is Roberta Messner, and she was explaining to me how much my music had blessed her life. She described her physical ailments which she had and had to have like 25 or 30 surgeries. It's one of those debilitating, horrible diseases that requires surgery after surgery after surgery. And so she said, my pain was unbearable until I got a hold of Rachel's song. She said, your music was just like salve to a wound. It said it was just so wonderful. And she wanted me to tell her how it came, just like you asked, how did you write that song? Where did it come from? So I told her, and then in a minute she says, well, Dave, I must tell you, I'm a writer. I write for Guidepost magazine. I said, oh, really? She said, I would love to pitch your story to Guidepost. It's a wonderfully inspiring story. I said, well, sure. So she said, let me contact the folks at Guidepost and we'll see. Well, she did. And she called me back. She said, yep, they're really excited about it and want me and you to write this up and submit it to Guidepost. I said, okay, Roberta, that sounds wonderful. So she did. She wrote it up for me, and then we got it finalized and submitted. And then I got a phone call after that from Guidepost says, we need some photographs for us to put in the magazine. And then it's when I knew they were serious. So I didn't have any official photos. So I got my camera out, and Linda took a picture of me sitting at the piano. And then we went outside with me and Linda and our cat, set my camera up on a tripod and took a picture, sent that to them, and that was great. Well, in September of 1994, this little Guidepost magazine hit the street. And right. I could tell you to the minute the day this hit the street, because in the back of this magazine, they fortunately put my address and phone number of COMBS Music in there. Well, my phone started ringing because this little magazine went to almost 3 million people. Wow. Now, talk about publicity. I had to hire 2 people to help me answer the phone because it literally rang off. You've heard of phones ringing off the hook. Well, this one, you didn't even have to wait till it rung. You could pick it up and somebody was there. It did that for weeks. I heard from over 10,000 people in less than 2 weeks. I mean, my mailman came dragging my mail in a canvas bag down the driveway. He couldn't even pick it up one day. And I heard from 10,000 people in nothing flat. And so that's how the article came about. And it's the story that I've told part of here about Rachel's song, but it also goes on to tell about how I was able to quit my job at AT&T and those and other details. But it's a great story. And that little magazine still is, occasionally I'll still hear from somebody that says, I just found this old magazine and read your story. It's great.
How does it feel to know that through Rachel and your music, you've been able to touch so many hearts and make such a difference in so many people's lives?
Well, it's very humbling to start with. I mean, when you read some of the 50,000 or so letters that I've gotten over the years from people, they pour their heart and soul out about how my music touched their life. In some cases, they have said my music actually saved their life. I found that extremely humbling. You know, I have gotten letters from alcoholics who say that my music really helped turn around their fight with sobriety, to become their sobriety. And other people who have had painful ailments where the music has helped them and so forth. Mm-hmm. But when you hear from that many people about how something you've created has touched their life, that just is so amazing. And that's why I wrote my book. If I'm sure you probably at least had a few minutes to glance at it, a little bit of it.
Yes, I did.
Touched by the music. And I dedicated chapter 21 of my book to reprint about 22 pages of some of those wonderful notes and letters that I got from people. And I heard from people all over the world. I heard from ordinary people. I got 2 letters from Paul Harvey, of all people. You remember Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. He and his wife, Angel, ate dinner almost every night to hearing my music. They loved my music. And he talked about me on the radio, above all things. I didn't even know it till somebody called and said, "Hey, Paul Harvey just talked about you on the radio." Really? So it's very rewarding to know that many people that I would never otherwise have had a chance to meet or touch have been blessed by something that I was blessed to create.
Dave, when you were sitting at your job at AT&T, did you ever think that Rachel would take you to where you are today?
I absolutely did not. A lot of people say, they've had this vision of where they want to be in years from the time they were little. I honestly did not, because I had a great job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my music, but I tell you, this journey with my music was like coming to a door and stepping through it, not knowing what's on the other side until you get there. And then you realize, wow, this is something else. So it was a journey of continually widening my imagination, and my sphere of my world really expanded greatly. And it was something that just it didn't just happen, but it was one that I embraced as it was happening, if that makes sense.
It sure does. You told us about the story when you were talking to the writer for a guidepost, and how she shared her story with you. And is there any one other story that you can share with us that you, as the composer of Rachel, as well as the person behind the success of getting Rachel out there, and the person who gets, what was it, 50,000 letters? Is there one that sticks out amongst all the rest?
Well, I guess one that really touched me about as much as any I ever got was from a young couple. And I didn't get this letter until years later. They told me the story of something that had happened 10 years earlier. I guess it was too painful at the time. This young couple had gone to the hospital to have a baby, and this was their second child. And they were so excited about having this little baby girl. And they went to the hospital, and unfortunately, the little baby girl died at infancy. And so they came home empty-handed, so to speak. And they both wrote me this wonderful letter explaining that on their way home, they were, of course, so emotional. They were strong, very religious people. They had prayed to God that, why is this happening to us? Why did this little girl not survive? And they were just distraught. And in the car, on the radio, on their way home, this song started playing. And it was an instrumental song, no words. And she said that they both looked at each other, and they had tears in their eyes. And they said, "Oh, my, that just sounds like our little Rachel talking to us, telling us that she's okay and everything's going to be all right." And then the radio announcer came on and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the music of Rachel's song." Well, it still gives me chills to even tell the story, because you can imagine the impact it had on this couple when their little Rachel, they didn't know the name of the song. I didn't know they had a little baby girl named Rachel, but they said that song so touched them, and that they finally got their own copy of it. And since that time, I've been fortunate to track them down and have a conversation with them. And it's just a wonderful, heartwarming story of how the music touched the lives of people who needed that music at that very moment. And it happened.
Dave, stand by. We've got to take another break. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Dave. And thank you for sharing your marvelous story.
Thank you, Rob.
Exonation, I'll be back on the other side of this break with Dave Combs, our very special guest. His website is combsmusic.com. And I'll tell you something, Exonation. This is the type of story that the world needs more of. A story that touches the heart, touches the soul, an inspiring story. Dave, thank you so much for sharing. We'll be right back. Don't go away. And welcome back. Dave Combs is our guest. Dave, you've had, let me see, over 4 decades, 120 songs. It all started with Rachel.
Sure did.
What does it feel like to be an entrepreneur now instead of an executive working at AT&T?
Well, I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial inquisitiveness and desire to do things for myself and be my own boss kind of thing. I enjoyed my job, but I also loved the idea of creating something that would provide for me and my family, for myself. And so when this song and the music that followed came along, and I saw the acceptance of the product of what I had created by the masses. Now, I'm an entrepreneur. I have an MBA from Wake Forest University, so I know a business model and a business opportunity when I see one. And it so happened that the model that I came up with for selling my music of CDs and tapes of Rachel's song and my other music through gift shops all over the country was so successful that by 1992, I was selling my music in over 1,000 gift shops all over the United States. And I was shipping and selling tapes and CDs by the pallet load. I mean, thousands of them. And so my income from that was far greater than what I was making at AT&T. And I was able to quit my job. And I guess that made it kind of a no-brainer decision. But that was something that I had dreamed about, obviously, once the idea started, and it came to pass. And so I basically, from 1992 forward, I have worked for myself and been an entrepreneur selling my tapes and music. Now, of course, we don't do tapes and CDs anymore.
That's right.
Everything is digital, but I have evolved into the digital world too. All my music's available on every streaming platform there is. You can download my music if you want to from iTunes, Amazon Music. You can get my book from Amazon, of course. And so everything is digital and instant and in the internet now. And I have a presence there as well. So I have evolved, but it has been a wonderful journey that has been wonderful to me and my family. We've made a good living at it, but we've also experienced the joy of getting the feedback from all those wonderful people that the music has blessed along the way.
Dave, what would your words of wisdom be to young entrepreneurs listening around the world tonight?
Well, number one is they need to make sure they know what their gifts are. And gifts can come in many different sizes and shapes and forms. You don't all have to be a composer or a painter or a sculptor or whatever. Your gift may be one of a beautiful smile. If you are able to light up the room and make somebody's life wonderful just by being around them, you may be a wonderful caregiver, like a nurse or a doctor or any kind of a medical person, service person. So know what your gift is. And everybody, I believe, has gifts. Some are great and some are not so big, but there is still a gift there. Know what your gift is, and then find ways to give that gift away. I think that is really a big part of it. Is you don't keep it to yourself. You find ways to spread your gift, and then don't ever let anybody steal your vision or steal your dream. Whatever it is, you keep at it. And the idea of persistence and taking action, constantly taking action. And if something doesn't work out, don't give up. Just back up and say, well, that didn't work. I'll try something else. And just keep at it. And so if you're a musician person, you're writing beautiful music, keep writing that music, play it for as many people as you can. And in today's technology, you can put it on YouTube and have anybody in the whole world listen to it instantly. So that's what my advice would be.
Have you ever been approached by any of the major labels to take Rachel and get it into their markets?
Well, no. I initially tried to get that to happen. I approached them back at the beginning because I knew the music had a lot of appeal. But unfortunately, the interests of the music business at the time, and may still be, they were only interested in promoting the big names, the people who are out there promoting, doing the big shows and the tours and all that kind of thing. And so they weren't really interested in my music at all. And initially, I was really kind of hurt when I learned that. But I came to realize that the music is a business, and they're in there to optimize their own revenue and income from their music, and I understand that. So I had to make my own way. So I didn't give up.
Sure.
I just did like we talked about. I found the gift shop route, and by golly, I sold more music through gift shops than they ever thought about selling in record stores.
Because of the success that you had with Rachel, the marketing that you came up with, having it played on radio, as well as the number of interviews that you've done, has Rachel ever won an award?
Yes, I did win an award in North Carolina. It was from the Music Teachers Association. This was early on because I created piano sheet music. For all of my original songs, I have piano music books so that the piano players of the world that want to play my music can buy the music and play it for themselves. And it is note for note transcriptions of exactly what's on the recording. Well, Rachel's song got to be used by a lot of piano teachers in North Carolina and elsewhere for some of their intermediate students to learn to play for a recital piece. And they awarded me the instrumental arrangement of the year. And this was way back, I think, in 1987 or somewhere around there. But that was a big deal to me.
So what's next for you? You've had the success with Rachel. You've got 120 songs right now. You're getting it out there. You're in gift shops across the United States. You've got a very successful book on your hands. What's next for Dave Combs?
Well, I am trying my best to spread the word about the music. Now, with having the success that I've already had, I'm very grateful for that. But there's a few billion people on this planet, and I have reached only a tiny fraction of those. And so my mission now is to spread the word through platforms just like this that we're talking about now, to talk about the music and introduce people that have never heard Rachel's song to go to my website. And right on the middle of my website, you'll see a little tab that says Play Rachel's Song. And it's free. You can click on that and you will hear the original recording that I made of Rachel's song back in 1986. It's not been edited or remixed or remastered. It is the original recording. And I hope that you'll click on that and listen to it for yourself and be blessed by it. And if you like that, then you can pursue other parts of my music as well.
What prompted you to write your new book, and what's it all about?
It was probably the need to tell the stories of how all of this came to be. When I would talk to a Rotary Club or something like that to tell my stories, and people would often say, well, Dave, you need to write a book about that. Those stories are great. So the pandemic came along. I guess maybe if it weren't for the pandemic, I would not have written it. But my wife and I were sitting here at home like everybody else in the world a 2 years ago. And then we look at each other and say, well, now what are we going to do? We can't go out to eat. We can't go to this, can't do that. We're stuck at home. She says, well, it's time to write that book that you've been talking about for years. And so better get busy. So I sat down at my computer and started writing up all these stories about my journey with my music. And it's all of those compilation. I think there's about 70 some stories that I've put together in my book. And I was fortunate to meet a gentleman that most of you have heard of by the name of Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
Jack, he's the guy that wrote the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books. Well, Jack became a good supporter of mine. He loved Rachel's song. And he was such an encourager to me. And I said, Jack, if I write this book, will you write the foreword for me? And he says, you write the book first. I said, okay. And I did, sent it to him. He loved it. So the foreword to my book is written by Jack Canfield. And I'm so honored that he did that. And it's really to tell the story and to hopefully be an inspiration to the world of people that are entrepreneurs or people who want to be an entrepreneur and do something more with their gifts.
Has anyone from the big screen industry or the small screen industry approached you about using Rachel for an audio track in a movie or a TV series?
Yes, way back early on, and this was in 1987, after I had just written Rachel's song and I hadn't even written any more songs to speak of, I was approached by United Artists to write some music for a James Bond movie. Now you say, well, how in the world did that come about? Well, it was one of those, I call it a God wink thing too, was my wife met a gentleman who was an attorney to the stars in Hollywood. He loved Rachel's song, and he said, this sounds like a theme to a movie for me. He said, let me see what I can do. So he got a hold of United Artists and told him about this composer, Dave Combs. And that's how they said, well, send us some music to this upcoming movie. And the movie's name was The Living Daylights. You may remember that James Bond movie. I think it was the one with the cello player that was the bad person, you know. And so they sent me the script. I sat down and got my friend Stan Moon, who I went to high school with. He wrote the words, and I wrote the music to a song that we called Danger in Your Love. Now, doesn't that sound like a theme to a James Bond movie?
It does.
Yeah, and the song was great. And his wife, Stan's wife, was a great singer. So we went to the studio, recorded the demo. His wife sang the lyrics to it. I took that recording and I flew to Hollywood. And I met this young guy from United Artists at the Hard Rock Cafe there in Hollywood, and played it for him. He said, oh, that's a great song, Dave. So he said, I'll present it to the powers that be. He said, now, you know, Cubby Broccoli, he makes all the decisions about this music. I said, okay, no problem. He called me back a couple of weeks later. He said, they loved the song, but I'm sorry, he picked another group to sing this for the music of the lead of the movie. And it was a little group called Aha. You may have heard of Aha. It was a Swedish rock band. And so they were a big hit at big popular rock group at the time. And so I had my aha moment. But anyway, we turned that song. I took the lyrics out of it and made it just instrumental. And when you listen to I believe it's track 3 on my album, the song is now called Your Love, not Danger in Your Love, just Your Love. But that is the same song that I wrote for the James Bond movie. And now that you've heard that, when you hear the Your Love song, you'll say, that does sound kind of like a James Bond theme song. It's kind of mysterious sounding. So yes, that was my only time that anybody asked me about music for a movie.
Dave, we're coming very close to the time where you and I must say so long for tonight. What are your final thoughts? What would you like to share with the world tonight?
Well, I would like to share with the world that what we need is, I think, some more peace and calm and soothing and less frenetic lifestyle. I wish that there were more and more opportunities for people to be exposed to quiet and peace. And it's like sitting on a mountaintop. I'm a mountain hillbilly from Tennessee, and I love to sit on top of a mountain and listen to nothing but the birds and the wind blowing through my hair, or what I used to have hair anyway. And but I think what the world needs now is some more peace and calm and relaxation. And I would hope that maybe my music can be a small part of helping that happen for some people.
Yeah, just a thought. Has any of your music, your other music, come as close to the fame that Rachel has?
I think so. I get reports every month from the Spotify and all the places that play my music, and I have over 170 songs I've recorded, 120 I've written. One of them, called Restful Rhapsody, for some reason, is played millions of times. I really can't explain that either, but that song is apparently very, very popular in this country and in Brazil and all over the world. It's called Restful Rhapsody. It's on my Discover Tranquility album. But yeah, there's other songs that have other people's very favorite song.
Wow. Dave, let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can get their very own copy of your albums.
Very simply, just remember my name, Combs, and go to combsmusic.com. I've got a very simple web page. On the left side of the page, you'll see my book. On the right side of the page, you'll see my CD of Rachel's song. And in the middle of it, you'll see the little thing that says play Rachel's song. And underneath the CD and the book are things that says buy on Amazon.com. So you can explore my music on Amazon.com. Just go to combsmusic.com and you'll find me. And I love to hear from you. Combs, just Dave at combsmusic.com. And I'll answer every email I get.
Dave, thank you so much for taking time and Thank you for writing Rachel's song.
Thank you, Rob. It's been my pleasure to be your guest this evening, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for taking care of so many people and writing beautiful music. This is what the world needs now, is more beautiful music. And thanks to you, beautiful music still lives. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Rob.
Exonation, once again, if you'd like to find out more about Rachel and the music that our guest this hour, Dave Combs, wrote, visit combsmusic.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break at the top of the hour as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in, where are we? St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.